Hey, Pashi.
Hey, Sufi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Can I toot your horn for a second?
Sure.
Nice spread in People magazine about your wedding.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And I enjoyed watching that a great deal.
Yeah. I feel like Mackenzie was extra tickled because one of her grandmothers always got People magazine. And she was just like, oh, to think that if my grandmother was still here, that I would be in it.
It came out online first, and I talked to Mom, and Mom said, will all those pictures be in the physical magazine? And I had to tell her that I don't now, nor have I ever worked for People magazine, and I will find out along with her. There were photos of people, and of course you did the polite thing, which is you reached out to people and asked them, are you okay with us letting these pictures be published in People magazine? Will you share what Jack McBrayer said when you asked him?
He said, yes, please. I love fame.
Yeah. So it was very exciting.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know either if it'll be in the physical magazine.
Right, we don't know.
Right,
yeah.
But I know.
They definitely got some. Either way, they tricked Mom into buying one.
Well, they tricked Dad really because Mom sent Dad out to go buy several copies,
right?
And then he told me it's not in the magazine. I don't see them in here, and also in a way that I was supposed to have known.
That you were supposed to rectify.
Yeah. So we don't know. Maybe it'll be in eventually. Maybe not. Maybe it's just online.
If it's not, you know what will be in? A letter to the editor from Hillary O. Myers. A very strongly worded letter, nonetheless.
Yeah. We FaceTimed with Mom and Dad on Sunday, and they were on the couch. And I said, do you want to FaceTime after? There was an exciting football game. And I was like, do you want to FaceTime after this? And they said, sure. And I really got to get them. I want them to either have their iPad or their computer, because when it's just a phone, they can never fit both of themselves, even though you can, there is a way to do this. But
right. But it's beyond them.
Yeah. But Dad answered, and he had the camera pointed towards Mom and Albert, our old English sheepdog, and Albert was essentially just laying on Mom's legs on the couch. And he was doing this very funny thing where she would say some comment about oh, your father wanted me to go buy turkey and a jar of gravy, and he would hit the camera flip button, and then it would be a camera on him, and he'd give a big thumbs up, and then he'd flip it back.
That's impressive. That's a bit that requires some tech knowledge. So I'm really
It was really funny. Although then in the middle of the conversation, we realized that Mom could never see us because Dad was looking through the camera of the phone, pointing it at her. And so she seemed sort of disconnected because it was FaceTime and she had no FaceTime.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which is key to FaceTime.
Yeah. But it was a funny bit by Dad.
And we've got our trip coming up to, as we talk about our parents, it's important. I'll tease it. We're going to take another trip to Pittsburgh. We're going to do an episode with Mom and Dad. And I believe it is the oft-promised rebuttal episode. Dad's been keeping a list.
If it's not, Dad might shut us down.
Oh, yeah. No, right. No, if Dad has enough to rebut, which based on knowing Dad, I think he'll have plenty.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we might have to break it into a trilogy like Lord of the Rings. I'm trying to think of what else I had to tell you. Oh, you pickleballed with Mackenzie?
Oh, yeah, we pickleballed. She's so fit.
She's one of the fittest people I know.
Right, because she rides horses every day. She's out there and she's walking around. If she's teaching a lesson, she might be on her feet, but she's walking around. She's very physical.
The only way you could be fitter is if you gave rides to horses.
Sure.
Yeah.
But when she does something that's not her normal activity, she ends up using these little muscles that she somehow doesn't use in riding a horse. And turns out there are some muscles that you use in pickleball that you don't use while riding a horse. And she's got one side of her butt is
Yeah.
in real trouble today.
Totally out of commission.
Yeah. I don't know how she's doing it today because I think she's just riding horses, but she's doing it because that's what she does.
Well, that's good to hear. Jim Gaffigan, I mean, this guy, he brings the heat. 5 kids.
5 kids, 10 specials. It's insane.
Yeah, 5 kids, 10 specials. That's everything you need to know about.
Yeah.
Hey, we said you can watch my special now. I don't know if I feel like maybe we haven't plugged it enough here on Family Trips. But
We've
Dad
plugged
Man
it,
Walking,
but not enough. Not enough.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Look, it's on Max. You can watch it.
So on Max, according to my wife's mother, your jeans were exceptional.
Oh, you know what? I want to give a shout out to Alexi because I've been getting a lot of feedback on both my hair and my outfit in the special. And I definitely turned that over to Alexi, and no surprise here, she crushed it.
Yeah. Got them. How'd you get all that in them jeans?
What's that?
How'd you get all that in them jeans?
All righty, well. I believe that was also a Jeff Tweedy song, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Enjoy Jim Gaffigan.
Family trips with the Meyers Brothers. Family trips with the Meyers Brothers. Here we go.
Hello.
Hi, is this like you have to do this one to earn the day drinking thing?
Yeah. You do okay, you impress us, and then you get to day drink.
It's so intimidating.
It's vetting. It's just vetting.
I'm just, I've been sent all this microphone stuff, and they always send you information like, hey, make sure you have your microphone set up. And I don't read any of it. So I'm sorry if there was a delay.
I think it speaks to maybe where you're at from a tech standpoint that your Zoom box says Katie's dad and mom. So clearly a daughter has set it up.
Well, it's, I'm a single dad and I also am the mom.
Oh, you're both?
No. My kids, they just torture. So with my wife, her Zoom box, we were in a very serious family Zoom about some family crisis. And one of my kids had changed her appearance to where she appeared like an alien. Like, you can change.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I don't know how to get out of this. It's so fun. Anyway, kids just torture you.
I want to say your special is fantastic, and I'm really happy that my special about being a dad came out a month earlier because I feel really impressed that I'm managing 3 kids, and then no one is impressed when they see yours and realize you're managing 5.
But the reality is I'm not doing anything. I mean, I'm failing miserably, but my wife does most of it, and she will tell you. She will tell you that she does most of it.
It's probably the same for you, Seth. Wouldn't you say that Alexia says she's doing most of it?
Yeah, she would echo Jeannie's sentiment there. I am always like, people must gasp, especially in New York when you say you have 5 kids, but you came from 6. So you must think this is just easy living.
No, I was the youngest, so it's like I didn't really know what was going on. And again, I didn't think I was even going to get married. So like I was in my early 30s and I was like, all right, I'm just going to be a weirdo that lives downtown and does stand up. And then you fall in love. You fall in love.
Did she see you on stage first or did you meet socially?
We met in our neighborhood. I think, I think we had met at a comedy club.
Okay.
Because she had done stand up. And, but yeah, no, we kind of met in our neighborhood, but it was, I didn't have any confidence to talk to women until I was in my 30s, really. You know what I mean? Unless I was drunk,
Well, there are some good things about alcohol.
Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, hold on 1 second. We need to pause for 1 second and adjust something. Excuse me.
Oh, am I holding it the wrong way? I'm not even holding it. Is this? There's a sneeze guard.
Yeah, the sneeze
here.
guard was in the right place.
Is this better?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like we should keep this in the podcast because it's
Right.
fun that we were burning you on being bad at tech, and then the thing we didn't even know was happening was your microphone was backwards.
But is it backwards?
I know.
Yeah, I don't
All
know
I
if
know
it's
is I
like-
can hear you way better now.
So, I always have this, like, I'm going to have an audio room
Yeah.
where I can do like animation and stuff like that and do some voiceover. I never am going to do it, right?
Do you have
Well,
a
once
free
your kids
room?
move out, I feel like, yeah, that's when you do it.
No, I am right now. My kids are at school. Hopefully, no. I'm in my office, and there's going to be people walking through. Like, there's no sense of privacy whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's all right.
How much older was your oldest sibling to you growing up?
I think she was. I should know this.
Yeah.
I could figure it out now. No, I think she was 7 or 8 years older.
Okay, so your parents were sort of, it was with regularity that they were having children.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, it was. But it was a definite amount of chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definite. It's so bizarre, right? Here you are, two brothers, right? And you had this closeness. And, because I had like this Irish twin that I was kind of raised with. And it's weird because there's the memory of your childhood and then you're kind of reconnecting. Are we still as close as we were? Like, do you guys ever feel that way? I'm trying to put you on the spot here.
We've been lucky because we're just close with our parents. So
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest part of it, don't you, Josh?
Yeah, I think also, we live on different coasts, so when we see each other, there is that sort of specialness to it. Yeah, but I don't know.
But I think it's also good. The value that you guys do this podcast is
This
that
is
you're-
incredible. Because I think that like a lot of adult men, Josh and I, before we had the podcast, we would talk once a week, but maybe for 3 minutes. And then my wife would say, how's he doing? And I would say, I don't know. I don't think that came up. I don't think we talked about it.
Why are we so bad at this?
I know.
I mean,
Don't you feel like, so you, you go on the road with Jerry, right?
yeah.
Isn't that, don't
Yeah.
you find like there's great value in that because you just are sort of forced to hang
Absolutely.
out with a guy that you want to talk to and you just would never make time otherwise?
Yeah, it's very it's a strange thing because I think particularly when you work and you're juggling family life and all this, it's finding time to do things like men that do these golf trips or stuff like that. Maybe because I travel so much, I'm like, I can't play golf.
Yeah, that's the way I feel.
Like I even, because I have this special with Hulu and Bill Burr has one and Sebastian, I was like, hey, I texted them. I'm like, hey, we should all go because it's all part of the, Disney family. I'm like, we should make them take us to like a Cowboys game on Monday Night Football. And Bill's like, I'm doing a play where I'm going to be out of town for, you can't, particularly if you travel. But I think also, Seth, having a show, like maybe, but I feel like you have a normal life. You go
I
out
have the
to
most
dinner.
normal. I think the most normal life you can have, which is every day is the same. I get to come into an office building and it feels like an office job in a good way.
So when you get done with your show, do you feel pressure to go home, or do you?
Yes.
Because sometimes don't you go to dinner? I feel like you've invited me to dinner, and
Yeah, I haven't. Well, so what I would do though is the show ends early now, and I have time to like go home, put my kids to bed, and then I would have
Right.
dinner after.
and then you'd have dinner.
And pressure is the wrong word. I feel like I like going home and put my kids to bed.
I know. Yeah, I mean, obviously we like our kids. You know what I mean?
Obvious, not always
let's-
obvious.
But all right. So let me ask you this, Seth: when you go out to dinner during the week, will you have a cocktail or will you have more than one? I know you two are drunks,
Yeah.
but like, how much will you drink during the week?
I think this, if you and I went out to dinner, I would guess that I would have 2 cocktails, and if we're really having fun, I might have a third. But I would never have a glass of wine at home, right? Like there's
Right.
I've completely cut off like idle alcohol consumption while I'm sort of having dinner in our apartment.
Right. And does your wife drink?
Not really, no.
Not really.
Yeah.
And so when the 2 brothers get together, it is like cocktails are planned?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
he still is pretty early to bed, and I can speak to the fact that he doesn't drink a lot at home because when I'm there, there's like the same bottle of whiskey is like still in the closet waiting for me. Like I could have marked it with a little wax pen, and it would be at the same spot it was the last time I was there. Yeah.
I have by the way, I remember because when I was trying to come up with titles for my special, I had the idea. I was like, "Oh, Father Time," and then I was like, "Oh, fuck, that's Gaffigan's whiskey."
No, that's all right. No, it's all good. It's all good. No, it is. It's bizarre. But the special. How do you feel about it? Because I know that whenever I'm on your show, you're always kind of. I feel like you and Colin are always torn between stand up and
Yes.
and staying home and obviously other commitments.
I think we did a nice job with this one. It was probably for me about 3 years of doing an hour that, changed a great deal. I kind of came out of the pandemic and started this one. And then once I had a date, I tried to go out one weekend a month where I would do 2 on a Friday and 2 on a Saturday. So I think I got about 6 months of that. But it is there is a balance where I don't want it to overtake the time where I can really hang out with my kids.
Right. So that's what a real dad would do. All right, fine, Seth.
Meanwhile, Jim, you've got like 10 specials or something like that?
I've got 10 specials, but I don't
It's
know my
nuts.
kids' names.
Well, there were 5. You didn't blink when I said 5.
So we could remind you. We could quiz you.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. Support for family trips comes from Airbnb. Hey, Baji.
Yes, Sufi.
We got our Pittsburgh trip coming up.
We do. I'm fired up. And one of the reasons I'm fired up is because once again, we have booked an awesome Airbnb and we're just going to be hanging out in one of Dad's old neighborhoods, Dad's old stomping grounds.
Look, we used to stay at hotels. It was great. No complaints about it. But this is something special because we're a family, and I feel like last year at our Airbnb, it felt like the way we were a family when we were growing up. We would all just meet downstairs. We would get some bagels from a local place down the street, brew some coffee, and we were just ready to face the day.
Yeah, and if if we're out and about and we get home, you might want to just throw on the TV and see if there's a game on or play some Scrabble, play a board game, and just be in that shared space and be together, be in a home away from home.
And being in a living room with mom and dad is very special, especially not their living room, which is covered in dog dander and gives me an allergic reaction. Some trips are better in an Airbnb when you're traveling with a group of friends. Maybe you're traveling with a large family or an extended family. When you're looking for an authentic or local experience, book your next awesome trip today at airbnb.com.
Support for family trips comes from Public Rec. Let's be real, guys. Wearing nice pants can be a real drag. Who decided that stiff, uncomfortable fabric squeezing your business was the key to looking sharp? Well, here's an early holiday gift from me to you. Those days are finally over. Public Rec's Daymaker pants are here to make sure you stay comfy and classy this season. Usually, when you order comfortable pants, you only get to pick from small, medium, large, and extra large sizes. With Daymaker pants, you get to select the exact width and length you need. They feel like your favorite sweats, but look like tailored pants. Yep, super stretchy with an elastic waistband so you can rock them anywhere. Give the gift of comfort to yourself or someone you love this holiday season with Public Rec's Daymaker pants. And for a limited time, you can get 20% off your entire order with code TRIPS at publicrec.com. That's 20% off when you use promo code TRIPS at publicrec.com.
Here we go.
So did you growing up though have a closest sibling, or were you all just sort of like a Gaffigan soup?
My brother Joe was kind of my Irish twin.
Got it.
There were 6 kids. There were 3 blondes, and then 3, brown haired. They were. It was divided by blonde, blonde versus brown haired, and so there was an alliance. It was very much. There was violence. There was. It was very, and so my brother Joe, and then my sister, who is kind of white platinum blonde like me, we were an alliance. It was very important.
Did you have one parent that was blonde and one with brown hair?
No. I mean, they were no. Okay. I mean, my dad had like a white gray hair, and my mom was a blonde, but I think that was bottle blonde kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to out her.
Right.
You know what I mean? But no, it was weird.
It's funny. I will say, like, I know platinum blonde is an accurate description of the color of your hair, but it is.
Yes.
I feel like it's so funny because you don't think of it on a man, like a man of your age.
I prefer champagne blonde. No, I remember growing up, just old ladies coming up to me. Because now my hair is just like white. But like growing up, old ladies would be like, oh, if I could get your color hair. And I'd be like, who is this woman? Who is
she a witch who can take it from
sound
me?
like I think a witch would say.
Yeah.
And you were Midwesterners.
Yes.
Mostly Indiana. I know born in Illinois, but then mostly Indiana.
Illinois and then Indiana. Yeah. So there was, I would say it's half and half, but definitely the identity is Indiana. But I'm the youngest, so there's probably some of my siblings that identify more as Illinois.
And what
Gotcha.
you guys, I mean, that many kids, I'm assuming you're a road trip family when you go anywhere.
We did a fair amount of road trips. There was a big trip to Europe when I was like 10 or 11. And I think it changed my life, honestly.
Really?
It was, yeah. I mean, it was, it really opened my, I mean, I've always loved different cultures. And I think it was because of that trip. We went, my mother had lost her mother and they inherited some money. So they justified doing a trip for it, because it was 6 kids.
Yeah.
My parents and my aunt, my mother's sister. So they split up. My brother and I and my mom went to Ireland and Scotland. Then we all met up in, different places. Like I have core memories, like being in Copenhagen at Tivoli Gardens and following my parents while I ate a hot dog, following my parents, the blonde people in cardigans, and then them turning around and they weren't my parents and looking around and it was all blonde people. And so I also remember being on a really kind of 1970s era cruise ship in Greece, and there was a guy wearing a thong and he was giving people haircuts. It was just like, it was like my first, I was like, oh, so that guy's gay? It was just like.
Right. That's like 2 data points. You're like, I think it's safe to, I wouldn't guess based on one of these data points, but.
Yes. And I remember being in Italy and Montabene, and also the first time I had sparkling water because we were so thirsty. We're like, can we get water? And they would give you sparkling water. And we're like, I can't. What is this? But that I mean, I truly love international travel, and I think it all goes back to that.
It is very, it's such an undertaking, and it's very cool that your parents thought it would be worth it, and that it turned out to be worth it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you split up. Why do you think that was part of the plan?
I think they hated each other. No, I don't know. I think it was about, I don't know. I think my dad took my 2 older brothers to like Lake Como or Lake Como I guess it's not Cuomo. And
it's a lesser known lake.
Yes. And then my aunt took my sisters to Paris. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it was, but that was like back in an era where you would plan these big trips, I guess. And, now we do it all online. But I think at that time you'd hire a travel agent to do all of it.
I just
right?
remember when we were going on a trip, Mom would have just so many papers out and would be on the phone so much. And there would just be so much writing down of dates and availability. And it's just kind of amazing how it all worked out.
Oh, so cool. So cool. And I did a daily journal that on the trip that my mom made me do, and I think I still have it somewhere. It's pretty cool.
My parents keep finding old journals of mine, and it's so depressing because it's like one big entry, then a half an entry, and then just light notes about girls I thought were cute, but in the margins, like lists.
Yeah.
So that trip, if you went to Copenhagen, Greece, Italy, how long was that whole?
I think it was 3 weeks maybe, which is, and I remember we saw in Edinburgh, we saw Greyfriars Bobby, but so I think it was but it was definitely a lot of traveling.
Yeah. Were you taking trains to get around?
Trains, planes. And then we did this, it was a very kind of, not a cruise ship it wasn't like the Love Boat, it was, and again, they didn't know, they probably just booked it and then we got on there and, but we were all the boys were in, rather a depressing room. I think my parents had a nice room, but we were like next to the hull of the boat. And so, it was pretty bizarre, but fun.
Do you remember how you felt about which parent you had been assigned to travel with? Would you have had one you preferred?
Well, I think, I don't know. I was the youngest, so I think it was traveling with my mom, it was great because I think we could get hot chocolate for breakfast. That's what I remember.
Your mom was the one that would allow hot chocolate for breakfast.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think my dad is like me. I'm very much let's get up and do something. Whereas my wife is we should just spend the entire vacation unpacking. And I'm just we get to a place with, my family and I'm like, all right, let's go do something. And my wife's like, no, let's just relax. And I'm like, well, we got to go to the pool or something. We got to do something.
Yeah. Well, you're like my wife.
It's been a long day of travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you travel sometimes far afield for work and you bring your family? I remember we talked about it once on the show. At what age did you start traveling with all five internationally?
Pretty early. I mean, even before we had five, I remember I brought them all I did shows in Israel. I did Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and that was bizarre. I mean, they don't remember any of it. That's the whole thing. I was so proud of myself. I brought you, we saw, all these historic sites, and they're like, really? They don't even remember going to Disney World, right? So,
it's funny, we brought our kids when they were very little to Uruguay, the boys, which is a long-ass trip. And I feel like we constantly talk about it around them to almost to incept memories that they'll have. We know they don't remember, but we just talk about it a lot because then if you do that, they will pretend like they remember.
So Uruguay, how do you, so I'm fascinated. How did you pick there?
A friend of a friend said it was incredible. The funny thing was the year before we'd gone to Miami, and I said to Alexia, I go, you know what? Miami's great. We never have to go farther than Miami. We just got everything. And she's like, I agree. Miami's great. And then literally the next year, she's like, Uruguay. I'm like, what? Because it was
with a layover in Miami.
So you went Miami and then what? Buenos Aires?
No, straight to Uruguay. There's an airport in Uruguay. And by the way, if it goes smoothly, it's not terrible because I think you leave Miami. It's same time zone. So I think you leave Miami at 10 p.m. and you land at 10 in the morning. So that's great. But our flight
puts everyone in a good mood.
Yes. But then our flight got delayed 12 hours. So we left at 10 a.m. and landed at 10 p.m. So now it's just everybody's awake the whole flight. And it was an absolute disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring a baby or a young kid on a plane. That's how you make friends. People just look at you like, they're like, how could you do this? And you're like, I don't know, sorry.
I'm sure it's come up, but we flew, when we just had Ash, we flew to Europe and he talked the whole red eye, literally just talked, but like just baby talked. And then we landed and he screamed when the wheels hit the ground. He screamed, "We did it, guys." And you could just feel the plane did not feel as though we had done it. You talked about bringing your kids you did a tour of Asia, correct?
Yes.
And the blonde Gaffigans were like a tourist attraction for the locals.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, going back, my daughter's 20 and we brought her to China, I guess 20 years ago. And because we had this blonde baby and we went to the Great Wall, and people were, all the people from China at that time, this is 20 years ago, they were just taking pictures of my daughter and like.
She was their Great Wall.
And touching her, kind of like, is this real? It was so bizarre. And it was cute, but it was also like, leave her alone. And also, I'm a celebrity too.
Right. No one's poking you.
Right? What's going on?
So you were 10 when you did that European tour with your family?
Yes.
So you do remember that. So maybe 10 is a good sort of benchmark for that's when it's a good time to take your kids somewhere because they will retain something.
Yeah. I mean, the family trips, because otherwise it's just like this slideshow of memories. Like I remember my brother, someone pushing him over in a chair, so we had to go to a hospital in Hilton Head. I remember, like the slideshow of your memories of your childhood. Another sibling throwing a brick at another sibling. It's just weird memories.
I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna go way out on a limb here and say that you and Josh have a very similar problem with a certain kind of vacation, which is you guys sunburn pretty easily.
Oh, absolutely.
Was that across the board? Because we are, for brothers who look alike and sound alike, I actually tan right up. Whereas
really?
Josh, I feel like most vacations there was a day where the issue was how sunburned Josh was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, definitely. I mean, but also back in that time, sunscreen was kind of, you could do it or you could be a man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was like basically salad dressing. It wasn't like...
Yeah, there was... Because there was like people, like there were people back then that would just put on baby oil too, right?
Yeah.
They wanted...
I feel like our mom was doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the sun... Yeah, I spent a lot of summers with... Like, I don't know if you ever got this. I got a blister. Did you ever get any blisters? You were so sunburned?
Well, I definitely had like a serious flaking off for, but I don't know that I got a proper sort of sun blister, but doesn't sound enjoyable.
No, it's also strange because there is that tug and pull of when you're a teenager, you kind of want to get a tan, but I never got a tan. I remember I ordered tanning pills, which were obviously just fake, from some fitness magazine when I was like 12. And my parents are like, because you have to write a check. And they're like, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, I think it's going to work.
Please.
And was it across the board for the Gaffigan kids? Were you all...
yeah, we're all pretty pale.
Yeah.
I mean, my son, Michael, can kind of tan, but I don't know if he can tan or it's just compared to the rest of us.
Right.
He's tan. Yeah. But you definitely tan.
I tan, and I like hold a tan. Like it'll be like now, people's guests on the show be like, "Why are you so tan?" I'm like, I don't know. It's been months. I don't know what to
And
tell you.
so is it from your mother or your father or the milkman?
It's from both of them. Both of our
yeah,
parents can get pretty tan.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But by
I
the way,
missed
like
it.
as a a public service announcement to those who are listening, like both of them should have worn more sunscreen too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean,
But like mom had like a skin cancer thing. I had a skin cancer thing. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah,
it's-
no, I go to a dermatologist like once every. I'm paying for his summer house.
Right.
It's just. Do you get stuff frozen off? It's brutal.
when a guy who looks like you walks into the dermatologist, do you just think they hear a cash register?
Yes, yeah, they're just like ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Do you feel like because you have 5 kids, do you feel like they would all, if they could choose, have a different kind of place they would vacation, or have you had a cohesion as a family with your trips? Has it always been like wherever the family goes is great?
I don't know if you've done the ski trips because I feel like
We've done those, yeah.
the ski trips is, and again, a lot of it is like if I'm doing shows in Salt Lake City and we'll try and do it around President's Day weekend. And so the family will come out and we'll do skiing. But there has been a certain, like my wife and I are like, yeah, we're done skiing. We're not doing that anymore. And my youngest is like, I'd like to ski. And I'm like, no, we're not doing it. It's just, and I have friends that are like, you don't have to go. And I'm like, I don't even want to go to that place. I'm not. And so like, yeah, so there are family trips that I think people, because my wife does like warm weather and whatever I can do to, gain her favor, I always plan the trips towards warm weather. You know what I mean? I'd rather go to Iceland, honestly, but or like some city like Barcelona. But she likes warm beach kind of things. But my kids will be like, hey, why don't we have like a Christmas with like snow and all that? And I'm like, because your mother wants to get away from the cold. So
I will say, I think there's nothing that feels more earned than we've taken ski trips with the boys. And that amount of gear and getting them ready. And then, but that moment where we've handed them over to ski school.
yeah.
And that palpable relief. And and because it was so hard from the minute they woke up to the minute you hand them off, I'm like, I deserve this more than anything I've ever deserved. This moment of quiet.
But the skiing, and I can appreciate that people truly love it. And I did like a CBS Sunday commentary on this. It's an enormous amount of money. It's an enormous time commitment. And the kids, they you finally get them in a snowsuit and then they have to go to the bathroom, right? Yeah. It's just insane it's just a weird behavior that humans do.
Josh loves it. I do not care for it at all. Yeah. And also I'm trying so hard because I like the idea of it as a group. But like every time I'm going down the mountain, all I'm thinking is like, this is so dumb.
Well, it's like, I'm always kind of like, how many times do I have to do this before I can go in?
Yes.
It's not like a waste.
It is the most. I'm like, when's lunch? When's lunch? When's lunch? I feel like I'm in school again where I'm like, when's lunch?
And then you go in for lunch and every single person's in there for lunch and you pay like $80 for like a wrap.
I go alone so often, and I'll have a sandwich which is like on my person in like this little ski backpack, and I sometimes don't go in all day. I go nonstop.
And so what do you think about, besides being a serial killer, when you're going down those mountains? Like, what do you and all those weirdos think about? Like,
I think about how beautiful it is. I think about how fun it is and how sort of just propelled by gravity I am in the moment. Yeah. If I'm on a lift alone, sometimes I'll do books on tape or podcasts on the way up.
Yeah.
On the way up a lift, and then music sometimes on the way down, or nothing on the way down. But
even thinking about that, I'm just thinking about it. And so you got to take your gloves off to switch to music. Everything about Josh's plan of how to make it better makes it sound worse to me.
It's interesting.
There was, I will say, I feel like there was an infusion. We went skiing in Colorado. I feel like the ski teachers last year there was like an infusion of Argentinian, like, and again, like the most handsome and beautiful people I've ever seen. And it was amazing what a magnet it was to the kids. Like all of a sudden they were like very excited to get back to the mountain to join up with Fernanda and the rest of the ski coaches.
And so how long did you go skiing for? Because it's like, do you go for a weekend?
No,
do you go
we
for
did
a
like
week?
3 days. 3 days.
3 days. And it takes you a day to get there.
Yeah.
It takes a day to get back because there's a snowstorm. But you'll go back and do it because as a parent, you're like, you should do this.
You should
with
ski.
Your kids, right?
The other thing is it's that it's a 2-hour time difference, which is just enough to make everything a disaster as far as like dinner and breakfast. Everything's it's not enough to like reset because and also you're not gone enough, so you're like just stay on New York time.
Yeah,
which means
it is also. Like when we were doing it, I was like, oh, this is good. Let's teach them a skill that they'll likely not be able to afford to do when they're adults.
And has no practical application to life.
It's so expensive. It's like, it's just so insanely expensive.
Do you ever, because you're such a big group, do you ever travel with like extended family?
I feel like we've alienated extended family.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not doing that. I mean, some of it is, sometimes they'll, we used to fly in, my wife has all these sisters, so we would fly in a sister to help and stuff like that. But, but by the way, when we traveled, so if we're traveling with luggage, we can't all fit even in an SUV.
Right.
Now we can. But so in other words, we have to be in a Sprinter, which is just insane.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's just bizarre. You're like, who the hell is this family that is piling out of a Sprinter? Like, it's just seems unnecessary. It's just way too big.
How many siblings did Jeannie have, your wife?
She's one of 9 kids.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was baked in the cake that you guys were going to have a lot,
it's just a bunch of craziness. And so we go back to Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee, but we'll go back there and a lot of the siblings are there. So
have you ever brought all your kids into like one of your sister's siblings' houses for a holiday, or do you descend upon a house?
No. Sometimes people will say, hey, you come visit us in the Hamptons. You can bring your kids. I'm like, you don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do that to your designer home. Do you know what I mean? It's so cruel. My wife, we have this place that the pandemic house, I call it, right? The pandemic, everyone's like, I'm going to become a farmer.
Yeah.
And so, and my wife has, all right, these kids are older. So she's, getting nice things like a carpet that she actually likes. And we have these rules: no eating in the bedroom. You only eat in the kitchen. They don't listen at all. They don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a great story.
So wait, do I have a memory of you did an episode of Law and Order where you had a lot of kids?
Yes. And in that episode, I killed my wife.
That's what I thought.
What a foreshadowing.
No, was that just
it wasn't
dumb
in
luck?
the script,
was
but
it
you
dumb
asked
luck
for
that
it.
they cast you as a guy with a ton of kids?
No, they did it on purpose, I think. It's Law and Order. I mean, as a New York actor, you love Law and Order, right? And I haven't done it in, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years. But like some of what they offer you is, like, I think I was offered one. They're like, you're going to be like a Jeffrey Epstein character. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be a Jeffrey Epstein. Why would you want me for that? So
I remember meeting, if there was any upside to like the 2007, 2008 writer's strike in New York, is you would just be on the picket line with people who worked on the New York shows. And, and I remember meeting Law and Order writers and it was like, oh, I'd love to let me be somebody who just like gets killed or somebody who finds a body. What I really wanted to be is in that first scene where you find a body.
Oh, yeah.
And instead
Yes.
they were like, hey, so we have an idea where you're a labor leader who gets murdered. I'm like, that's a little on the nose. Literally the strike just ended. They're like, I don't want to do a scene where I'm carrying a picket sign and then get beaten to death.
But the Law and Order, it never ends. It's like it's amazing.
I think that's the first time I saw you do dramatic work, and I'm a big fan of your dramatic work. So
I love it. It's I wish I could do more of it, but you gotta wait for them to hire you.
Yeah.
You do. You mentioned in your special, not burning anything, but that sometimes you shave for work.
Yes.
And that
This hit a
our
nerve.
father.
This hit a nerve for us.
Yeah, because our father has always had a mustache. Always, always, always. And we were on vacation once, I think in the Bahamas.
Sounds right.
And he shaved before we woke up in the morning because he wanted to be able to tan that upper lip while we were on vacation and try it out. And we hated it so much.
Wow.
We were like crying. We were upset.
How old were you guys?
Not
30, 31.
older, not that old, but like too old for a reaction. But also, I mean, in our defense, he did like burst out of the bathroom like,
Yeah. But I feel like we were like 13 and 11 or something like that. But I don't know how do your kids react when you go? Because I assume they know you as a bearded gentleman.
Yeah, it's never positive. They just, when they're like, they bring it up like it's some kind of mistake, but I'm like, it's because of an acting role. And so playing Tim Walz, I had to shave my beard again. It's sad.
do they at least appreciate how cool it is that you're doing SNL? Are they of the age?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So at least with that, you're shaving and they know the context.
Yeah, no, they love it. I mean, it's, but it is, it's funny because my 18-year-old is very kind of, there's some cynicism there. He's like, when I got it, he was like, yeah, well, SNL, like there's just that cynical, I'm like, it's still amazing. He goes, no, it's totally amazing. But he's like, yeah, well, he's just such the cool guy teenager.
That's so funny to be like, well, you're right. Maybe I'll hold out and play Tim Walz somewhere else.
Yeah. Maybe I'll wait for some other, the last remaining legendary comedy show that's been around for 50 years.
You're right. I should just jump at the first offer to do Walz.
Yeah.
Have they come? Have you brought your kids to the show?
I have not.
Okay,
I have, well, some of them are in college.
Right.
But there's part of me initially, the first couple of weeks, I don't want that anxiety.
I 100% agree. Also, it's weirdly, because you're not, as a host, you would have to have them come. But you're not a host. And there's a real, I appreciate that the pressure is not one where you'd want to.
And I also I want to be a good soldier there. Like, I don't want to be like, my 10-year-old is looking for, I don't want to ask for any favors.
Hey, Lauren, my 10-year-old would love to know about how you got into the business.
Yes.
Going back to a young Jim, when you've got all these siblings and you take these road trips, where were you guys going? Were you visiting grandparents or were you actually just traveling to travel?
I think I was the youngest. So like, I think there was definitely road trips driving to, South Carolina, North Carolina, or Florida. Mm-hmm. But when I got older, I think there were trips like we took a trip to Jamaica. And this even ties into the sunscreen thing. I think I was in 7th grade and just the amount of insecurity, like people would be like, why are you so pale? And I'm like, I was like, well, I actually tan in different parts of the world, like just bizarre stuff. And then we ended up going to Jamaica and some guy was like, yeah, well, you said you tan in different parts of the world. So when you come back from Jamaica, you'll be tan. I go, yeah, I probably will be. I know it sounds like I'm making that up, but in 7th grade, that made sense.
Yeah.
So we would go to Jamaica, but we would stay at a resort and, I remember there was, crab races and then they had great burgers. That's what, I just cared about the food.
Was there ever a time where like all 6 of you were given the freedom to go off and do something on your own without your parents?
Yeah, I would say there was on vacations, there was pretty much independence. And then we would meet up for dinner. I think my dad was kind of like, see ya, you know what I mean? And we would have some independence. But some of it, in some ways, I don't remember. Like, when you think about vacations, it's like you have memories of moments, but like, you know, you don't remember some of what you would do in the morning. Like, I don't even know how we would eat breakfast, but I'm sure we did.
Right.
Do you know were those resorts all inclusive? So were you able?
I think the Jamaica one was very much all inclusive.
We've had guests who were so excited that you could just keep going to the bar and say, "Can I have another Coke?" And just all day, just crushing Coca-Colas and burgers and whatnot.
Oh, but you know what? I think the Jamaica one was you had to put a name down, and all the siblings would put other siblings' names down. So if you got a Coke, it wouldn't be charged under your name.
Right.
Do the five, when your five travel, do they mostly get along? Are they better behavior or worse behavior than normal life in New York?
I think they have a better time. Yeah. They're definitely, they have more fun, but they're so dramatically different. So the interests are really all over the place. So if, my oldest would love to do some kind of see musical theater or something like that, and my 18-year-old would just want to go and criticize
locals?
Not the locals, but he'd be like, all these stupid rich people, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and then my younger sons would just want to, if there's a basketball court around, Yeah. So
what's the closest age gap between your five?
My two youngest, and they're, I think it's 18 months, but I remember my wife and I we had the first trip away after the birth of my son, Michael, we went to the Super Bowl when it was in Indianapolis, and I did a gig, and she was there, and we were going to have fun because, and she woke up one morning, and so I think my son was maybe 5 months old or something like that. And she was like, you got to go and get me a pregnancy test. I'm like, you're not pregnant. You can't be pregnant, And so then I went and got a pregnancy test, and she was pregnant. And it's like,
wow.
Yeah.
That really puts a damper on the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It really, it got in the way of the more important things.
Had you in your head, at what point do you think you and Jeannie knew you were going to have 5 kids? Was it was it that pregnancy test, or was it?
Yeah, there was a certain, some of it is I was going along.
Right.
Where I believe it's an abundant universe and stuff like that, and not really being practical, and particularly realizing they were all going to eventually be teenagers. I didn't really think of that. But yeah, so I remember when we went for the ultrasound for our youngest, Patrick, I was like, what are we doing? What? And she was like, how dare you? It was the worst because I'm so clumsy. She was like, what, you don't want this child? I'm like, no, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying, should we, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So it was, because there is, but when you had, did you have a discussion?
I think I kind of, because I'm, obviously we're 2. Our boys are exactly the same age difference of Josh and I, and it just felt nice and symmetrical. And then it was sort of during the pandemic that Alexi said, I think we should try one more time. And it was, so I sort of went along, and, obviously I can't believe how lucky I am that we did. And I'm so happy we have a girl too, who's just, as you know, they're just so much smarter.
Yeah.
which is great.
They're so much more civilized.
Yeah.
But here's my question. I mean, like, people are like, because people are like, leave your wife alone, leave her alone. You know what I mean? It's, but like, there is part of me that's, I'm not going to say no to my wife if, she's like, I mean, now I think it's that we're done, but like, if you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like if your wife was like, I would like another one, are you going to sit there and go, no?
Of course not.
You know what I mean?
Of course not.
It's like, you're like, all right, I mean, I'm not going to do most of the work, so
100%.
sure. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where like, all right, I mean, I'm not going to be doing any breastfeeding, so I guess I'm open to it. You
already got all the toys and all the clothes.
Yeah. Because she knows exactly what it would take out of her, I would know if she wanted to, she would really want to. Because she knows she knows what has to go into it. And so I definitely thought I think that window's closed for us as well. But I also, if we just started earlier, I remember if I'd started earlier, she started at a perfectly normal time. But if I had started earlier.
Shovel.
Yeah.
Shovel.
Well, Josh, you have anything else?
I don't know. Are there any sort of disaster stories that you can think of from your youth or from taking your own family somewhere? Any trips gone wrong that pop out in your mind?
Well, I guess just there's the family trip, which is different from a vacation, right? There's a certain amount of, I don't know. I feel like we're so lucky that we even can do some of these things, right?
Do you ever lose your temper, Jim? You don't strike me as someone.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? Constantly. I thought you were going to say, do you ever lose kids? Because we lose kids too. You lose them now. I mean, now they're more kind of like they're leaving than losing a kid. But we'd go into stores and we'd leave and we're like, hey, where's Katie? And you go back and she'd be like, I was hiding. And you're like, that's not funny. But I did a bus tour where this is insane. So 5 kids, 30 straight days, maybe 28 nights, doing a show a night, 5 kids on a bus. Like, we did that.
Oh my God. And how old were they? Was it the summer? Like, were they?
Maybe the youngest was 1. Yeah, it was definitely summer.
Okay, so that's part of their summer vacation. And so that means that you probably, during the day, have to do activities with them, even though you have a show at night, because otherwise, what's the point of bringing them?
Yeah, I think I'm surprised I didn't tell you about it, because there is something about, you don't have to do that many dates, but the tour bus thing is kind of cool. And the kids love it. They're in a bunk. It's incredibly exhausting. It's really unfair because, there's also during the day of a show, I'm like, I got to take a nap because I have to peak at 9:00 at night. But so we did that a couple times. We went to, Mount Rushmore, saw Mount Rushmore, saw, Crazy Horse, really cool stuff. And we would do, and some of the stuff's cool and some of it's just silly. Like, I think we went on a pirate cruise in Erie, Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? But it's almost great doing those things because you're doing them with your kids and then you're doing stand-up at night, which I love.
Yeah. Was that, though, do you think that's the worst gig that bus driver ever had?
Yeah, because there's drama, right? There's just self-contained drama, and there's also on a tour bus, you're not supposed to really use the toilet, and so
right.
But of course, a kid doesn't know that. So.
Is there any other crew on the bus, or was it just you and your family and the driver?
It would just be the family, and
that's fun.
Yeah, it was fun, and the kids just loved it because you're in a tour bus, so they loved it.
What was the most amount of time on the bus on any given day, like as far as how far apart the gigs were?
It would be, I mean, sometimes there would be like an overnight drive for like 8 hours.
Right.
It was insane. But we would go, and then you'd go to like a Holiday Inn Express, and they're so young, and so they'd love that there's a swimming pool, or you're in Arkansas and we'd go fishing at some pond. So they loved it. So like to comedians, I always say, that is something really kind of fun. If you want to do sets, because I was telling Colin Jost, I'm like, I don't think he could do it, but you can literally just hit a bunch of cool markets and like go to Nashville, go to, Lexington, Kentucky, or, they're great cities.
Did you, last thing I'll ask before we get to our lightning round, you shot at the Wilbur. Have you shot all 10 specials at 10 different locations, or have you done, I feel like you did Wilbur before, or no?
Yeah, I've done 3 at the Wilbur.
Gotcha.
And some of it is just the timing of when I'm getting ready to shoot.
Yeah.
And I think I had to move it for some other reason, maybe because I got some acting job. And the Wilbur, they're just, I mean,
it's the best.
It's such a great market for comedy. And it's just a no-brainer. I mean, obviously, everywhere I've taped specials I've loved, but it just is a no-brainer there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's great theater, the way that everybody feels like on top of you. It's really nice.
And everyone that works there knows what they're doing. So
yeah.
It's great.
It's a good operation. All right. We're going to ask you our questions that all our guests get. And Josh is going to fire it off.
All right.
Here we go. You can only pick one of these. Is your ideal vacation relaxing, adventurous, or educational?
I would say educational.
Yeah.
What is your favorite means of transportation? Train, plane, automobile, boat, bike,
tour bus,
walking, tour bus.
I would say plane.
If you could take a vacation with any family, alive or dead, real or fictional, other than your own family, what family would you like to take a family vacation with?
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, wow. I would say Mark Twain's family, because I think he did a lot of traveling.
Yeah. It's a good one.
He at least had good story. If he didn't travel, he could have convinced you that he did.
Yeah.
If you had to be stranded on a desert island with one member of your family, who would it be?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, probably my wife, because she does everything.
Yeah. It's a good call. And your hometown is Chesterton, Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you recommend Chesterton, Indiana as a vacation destination?
Actually, yes.
Wow.
There is the Indiana Dunes are right there. And it is a really, it's like when I was growing up, they didn't even have a McDonald's. And now it's, suburbia Chicago. So
yeah. Great. And then Seth has our final questions.
I'm so nervous.
Have you been to the Grand Canyon?
I have.
Worth it?
Absolutely.
And how many times have you been? It feels like you're the kind of guy who maybe has been multiple times.
I did it once where I hiked it with my then girlfriend, and then I did it once from helicopter from Vegas, which was for my son's birthday, where you land and then you have like a glass of champagne in the middle of the Grand Canyon. I thought it was amazing.
All right.
But I probably could have gone back many times, and I haven't.
That's all right. That counts. What a delight to talk to you, as always.
Thanks so much, you
November
guys.
22nd on Hulu, The Skinny.
Very exciting.
It's your 10th.
It's crazy.
10 hours. Crazy. I can't believe it.
10 hours. Just trying to get my dad to like me. Just trying.
Well, they say 10,000 hours and then you're an expert in something.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So you're on your way.
I'm on my way.
All right. I hope I see you soon, Jim. Thank you.
Thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Family trips with the Meyers Brothers.